Back to Pine Tree State Restorations with Tube Radio 101. What to do when you don't have any tools, you buy an old radio set, you don't have an oscilloscope, you don't have a voltometer, and you want to be careful, you want to be safe, you don't want to blow yourself up. Remember, there's high voltage in here. So here's how we start. I bought this National NC 173 knowing it was no good. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to look over the radio for any obvious signs of damage. Is there a tube missing? Are there broken wires? If you look inside, kind of look around. Other side, come over here. And right out of the gate, I noticed that transformer's been replaced. That's not the original transformer, which is fine. But the guy did kind of a shoddy job, and you can see it in there. He just cut and spliced the transformer in. They're soldered, but they're just it's kind of a poor job. So the first thing you want to do is you want to check the power cord. Never plug these in first, never. So we're going to check the power cord first, which I have done, and it was shot. It was all cracked. Now I temporarily put a power cord on. This is a new cord. One side goes to the fuse panel, the fuse, I should say, and the other side goes to the transformer, and then there's a filter capacitor to ground, which is probably shorted out. So, after you get the cord on, your next step is, do I want to fire it up? And you can do that. A lot of people have Variacs. I have one myself, but there's a way around that. You can take the radio after you put the power cord in and check for obvious signs of damage, and you can plug it in and unplug it real quick. Just in and out, real quick, in and out. Do that 3 or 4 times. Anything that might want to blow will probably blow right then and there, and you won't do any damage if you pull the plug out right away. After 4 or 5 times of doing that, you're going to plug it in and you're going to let it warm up. Now, chances are, 100% of the time, you're going to turn the radio on and all you're going to hear is, that's all you're going to hear. Okay, but you can still, don't leave it on indefinitely like that. You can still figure out what's going on if your radio has a signal meter. Even over the hum, signals will be coming in. You won't be able to hear anything, but you'll see the meter move when the radio waves come in. The ups and downs, you'll see the meter move. You'll know the radio is working, okay? But there's 2 things that go wrong with these old radios 99% of the time. Number 1, the filter capacitor right here. That takes your line voltage and smooths out the 60 hertz hum that you're hearing in the radio. Without it, all you'd hear is the AC line hum. That's all you'd hear. You wouldn't hear a damn thing. Every time a radio is this old, that filter capacitor, unless it's been changed, is going to be bad. So, you can fix it 1 of 2 ways. You can take the connections off here, cut and paste some capacitors down below and leave that on there for looks. Or you can get a new can and replace it. Be careful because some of these cans are grounded to the chassis and some of them are not. You gotta know what you're doing here with the wires. Also, starting out, these 2 capacitors that go down to ground here, a lot of these radio sets will have a capacitor that comes off the hotline, 110, right to ground. You're going to want to change that too. Now, after you change that, and what you want to do is you want to change a few things a little at a time. Don't try changing it all at once, because if you don't get a good solder joint or something, you didn't get something quite right, you'll have to trace all that back. So just change a few things at once until you get it to work. Once you change these on this particular radio and that filter condenser right here, filter capacitor right here, once you change those, I'm betting the radio will work. Very rarely do you have bad tubes. Very rarely. That's the first thing people look for, and it's usually not the case. It's usually a bad resistor bad capacitors. So anyway, change those, get her going. Once you get her going and starts to play, you're going to have control problems. What I mean by that is a lot of these shafts are going to be sticky, stuck, and tight. They have an aluminum shaft usually that goes into brass. They get corroded and everything gets all gummed up and you can't even turn them. So you're going to want to take these knobs off, clean them shafts up, and try to work some light oil in there and get them freed up. You're going to want some deoxit right here. You're going to need this to clean those switch contacts right here. Okay? Many contacts in there. Dirty. Not going to work. Then you got contacts in these potentiometers. Okay? You're going to need to clean them in there too. Don't douche this with, you need very little. Maybe take a little low pressure air, spray that, little air, blow that out, get that cleaned up. This is the best stuff there is. The Deoxit D5. This is the stuff right here. Get it online on Amazon. Must have. Now, after you do all that and the radio still don't work, you can skip the voltage test and start checking tubes if you got a tube tester. Which, if you're going to work on these radios, you can get one on eBay all over the map for price. I have several. Get a tube tester and start checking tubes. You might have a dead one in there. If that's okay, and there's no other issues, then you need to start looking around these coils, making sure there's no broken wire on the inside or the outside. Once you get the radio running and it starts playing and everything starts working, then you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to change the other filter capacitors. Okay? This one, this one, this one, this one. Right there's one, right there. Change it. Sorry about that. And then work your way up. If you look in the IF section there, you got a whole bunch more right there. Now, you don't have to change them all at once, but I would change them all anywhere near the power supply section. Okay? Because you don't want any voltage going up on anything else. So we get all that fixed first. And then you could take a break, play it for a while, and then eventually change all these. It's not that bad. Just cut and paste. Cut them out. Make a little curly cue. Cut and paste them. Yes, you can use a solder sucker and play games all day doing that, but I wouldn't. Once you get all that done, you'll have to align the radio, okay? You'll need a scope for that to line the radio up. The only way you're going to do that is if you have a scope. If you don't have a scope, then you're going to have to take it somewhere that does, or you're just going to have to eyeball it. We'll get into that later. But you want to look around for obvious signs of damage. I got to looking at this radio earlier, and I noticed the front cabinet got a little bit of a bow in it right there. I'm not real sure what happened, but we need to look into that. Everything seems to be working all right, but it seems like maybe it got dropped or something. There's a little bow right there. We're probably going to leave it, not mess with it, or we might try to bend it. I don't know. We'll have to see. But you can, any radio you buy, the first thing you want to do on a tube radio is check that cord. And then you want to spend all your time down there by that power supply and those condensers, those capacitors. You got to change them. Now, sometimes you'll get one and the power transformer's no good. Okay? The radio might light up, but no sound, no power. Then you got to go ahead and start checking the voltages on the tubes to see if you even have any voltage. Okay? Almost anywhere online, like BAMA, for example, BANA, you can download a manual, get a schematic, and figure out what's going on. But that's the first tips for the radio repair 101 when you got nothing, when you got no tools. Also, be careful. Inside the radio, there's 300, 400 volts. Don't be sticking your hands in there, playing around when the radio's running because you will end up on the floor or worse. So be very, very careful. Do the old trick. Your left hand in your back pocket. Don't put two hands on the radio at one time. If you got it on and you're poking around in there, which I don't recommend you do unless you got the right tools. But anyway, thank you for watching Pine Tree State Restorations, and there will be more coming up on this radio. And have a great weekend.